Hello everyone, and welcome back to Cursed Ship Images, the series where we dive into the depths of naval weirdness to find the ships that time, and logic, forgot. No, these aren't haunted vessels, they're just deeply questionable. Like a meatloaf that jiggles too much. These are the naval equivalent of microwave nachos. Unstable, hard to explain, and kind of a fire hazard. Let's set sail and remember, it's not haunted, it's just wrong. Meet the USS Kirarge, not haunted, just having a weird career crisis. In 1864, when USS Kirarge defeated the British-built Confederate commerce raider Alabama in a duel off the coast of France, she became one of the US Navy's most famous warships. In 1895, Congress authorized Battleship Kirarge, Battleship Number 5, the first ship of the US Navy to be named by an act of Congress, and the only battleship not named after a state. Red flag number 1. With technology outpacing design and construction, she was seemingly obsolete before her Great White Fleet paint dried. So what did the Navy do? Strip her like a hot rod and slap a comically large crane on her. Seriously, she went from battleship to giant floating claw machine in one dry dock visit, making her the Navy's answer to a forklift with unresolved trauma. They even bolted giant 9-foot blisters to the sides to keep her stable, which is like putting water wings on a sumo wrestler. Redesignated Crane Ship Number 1, AB-1, in late 1944, so the name Kirarge could be assigned to an Essex-class carrier, first CV-12 and then CV-33, she ended up living her best life living heavy stuff. For example, handling guns, turrets, armor, and other heavy lifts on new battleships Indiana and Alabama. She served as a heavy lift crane for more than triple her time as a warship. That's like getting a law degree, practicing for 2 years, and then becoming a professional IKEA furniture assembler for 30 years. In the end, the Navy got its money's worth, which is more than I can say for some of the other ships on this list. Efficient? Yes. Cursed? Blessed? Absolutely either way. Next we have HMS Furious, a ship that started life trying to be a large light cruiser, whatever that means, considering the Courageous class was designed to carry 18-inch guns. Then, mid-construction, she said, "Nah, I want to be an airport now," because someone decided that flinging biplanes off the bow was a better idea than firing the largest guns in Royal Navy history.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
So then, a guy named Edwin Dunning tries to land on it, and promptly dies. The British say, tragic, better build another flight deck on the back too. And that's how Furious became a ship with a runway up front, one in the back, and a whole bunch of don't try this at home in the middle. The forward and rear decks were connected by deckways fitted alongside the central superstructure, and it's this feature which has Furious on this list. Rebuilt entirely in the 1920s as the Courageous class carriers, Furious survived the war and was sold for scrap in 1948. So maybe cursed and lucky? I think so. Yes, the Admiral Popoff, or as I like to call her, the warship equivalent of a pancake. Designed by Admiral Popoff and known lovingly, or not, as Popovka, the ship was almost as wide as she was long, wider than an Iowa-class battleship even, at 1/7 the length. Built to protect the Russian coastline, it spun like a fidget spinner in rough weather, which, spoiler alert, the sea often is. Armed with two 12-inch guns and enough instability to be the zodiac sign of the fleet, she did almost nothing in the Russo-Turkish War. Her best performance? Providing a case study for what not to do when designing a warship. Imagine taking aim with battleship guns, while the entire ship is doing donuts. That's not tactics, that's a carnival ride. The Tsar loved it enough to nickname it Popovka, after the designer. Which is like naming your failed baking experiment after yourself. Yes, behold my legacy, the deflated souffle of the Black Sea. Considered to be one of the worst warships of all time, the Russians never had a hope of keeping up with the other great naval powers, so they often indulged in a variety of innovative and experimental concepts, some of which worked well, such as their icebreakers and mine warfare ships, some of which didn't, such as Admiral Popoff ships. Is the Popoff cursed? You betcha. USS Mississippi, BB-41, or in this case, AG-128, a name that screams American might and catastrophic turret explosions. No, really, Turret 2 exploded twice, once in 1924, killing 44 men, then again in 1944, because, sequels are never as good, but just as deadly. In between those two incidents, she earned 8 battle stars in World War II, survived kamikaze strikes, and even fired a spiteful one-shot salvo at the Battle of Surigao Strait, after the fight was already over. At this point, she's less of a ship and more of a Final Destination prequel. In November 1945, USS Mississippi arrived at Norfolk Naval Shipyard to begin her conversion from a battleship to a gunnery training ship. The conversion lasted until July 1947, at which time USS Mississippi was placed back in service, now classified as an auxiliary general, AG-128. All but the aftermost main battery turret was removed. Number 4 turret was kept to provide stability, though it was demilitarized. No main battery ammo was kept on board. Wouldn't want to risk another turret going up now, would we? Several of the twin 5-inch 38 mounts remained starboard, while single 5-inch mounts were installed on the port side. She even served as the trial ship for the Mark 16 twin 6-inch cruiser gun, which was installed on the Worcester-class cruisers. The twin Mark 16 was intended to be equally effective against ships and aircraft, and to give light cruisers an AA weapon with longer range than the 5-inch guns on destroyers. Mississippi even famously tested US Navy's new missile systems. Yes, the ship with a history of spontaneous combustion was chosen to test cutting-edge rocketry. That's like hiring Wile E. Coyote to run your safety program. She finally retired in 1956, likely because the crew ran out of prayers and asbestos. Imagine testing cutting-edge missiles on a ship that already was halfway to Valhalla. Kursk doesn't even begin to cover it.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
And finally, the LCS. You know it, you tolerate it, and you question your taxes because of it. Originally pitched as a sleek, agile ship for near-shore combat, kind of like a speedboat and a transformer had a baby, it quickly became the poster child for how not to do military budgeting. Not just a ship, an entire cursed concept. Imagine designing a vessel for shallow water warfare, then forgetting to make it survivable, affordable, or particularly useful. 2 types were built because politicians couldn't pick one. Both designs are roughly the size of a World War II Fletcher-class destroyer, feature aluminum hulls that corrode faster than bad relationships, modular, plug-and-play systems that never quite worked, and cost overruns that would make Jeff Bezos flinch. They were decommissioning ships before they even finished building the ones on order. The first one, Freedom, lasted just 13 years. That's not even old enough to get a learner's permit. More than 50 were planned, but the LCS program has faced delays, enormous cost overruns, and heavy criticism. Value remains to be seen, but people are hopeful that upgrades, such as Hellfire missiles and UAVs, will help it contribute to the battle force. But hey, we learned valuable lessons, like don't build expensive toys and call them warships, or do and just blame Congress. If cursed concepts was an Olympic sport, the LCS would win gold, then sink halfway through the ceremony. And there you have it. 5 more maritime missteps that prove floating isn't the same as functioning, where the blueprints are haunted, the decisions are baffling, and the deck guns are mostly for decoration. Remember, ships don't need ghosts to be cursed. Sometimes bad decisions, bad design, and a sprinkle of hubris will do the trick just fine. If you enjoyed this episode, toss us a like, subscribe for more, and let us know in the comments which ships belong in the Cursed Ships Hall of Shame next. Until then, stay weird, stay afloat, and never let the Navy name anything after you. I'm Jack Russell with Bearing Straight. Thanks for watching.